You know that feeling when you're trying to get your head around a topic and you just wish someone could sort of distill it all down for you in a way that actually sticks?
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's what we try to do here. And today, we're diving deep in something really interesting that you, our listener, flagged for us, the Liat Show.
That's right. Yeah, you sent over a really fascinating bunch of material bits from the About page, a look at past posts, some specific articles too.
Hmm.
So our goal today is, well, to really get under the skin of the Liat Show, figure out what makes it tick, what makes it different, and pull out some of the key ideas it's exploring.
Exactly. We want to unpack what the Liat Show is, first off. Then touch on that unique dynamic in the conversation, between Leet and her father, Nissim.
Right.
Think about what maybe we can learn from their intergenerational perspectives. Explore this platform, Substack, and definitely get into some of that really compelling stuff, like why understanding urban planning is something we should probably all care about.
Sound like a plan.
Okay, so to kick things off then,
Mhm.
what is the Liat Show all about, like fundamentally?
Okay, so based on her About page, this is on Substack, it's a reader-supported publication. Straight away, what's kind of intriguing is how she frames her mission.
Mm.
She talks about creating things the world hasn't quite seen before, and she pulls together this really diverse mix of topics. You've got history, music, science, entrepreneurship, business, art, even food,
Wow.
and it's all woven together with personal stories. It's quite a mix.
It really sounds like she's not afraid to connect things that maybe don't seem connected at first glance.
Huh.
She also mentions being the daughter of a great storyteller and an architect. That feels kind of important, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And she carries that idea, the architect idea, into her own work. She sees herself as an architect, but like you said earlier, not of buildings or software.
Right.
She actually calls herself the first of her kind, which, suggests a really innovative, maybe experimental approach. And crucially, she stresses that the reader, the listener or reader isn't just passively watching. You're actually described as a vital part of the story as it unfolds.
Huh. So it's almost like interactive.
All right.
Or like we're co-creating it somehow.
Yeah.
How does that actually work? Like structurally, how's the show put together?
Well, the episodes, they tend to come out over weekends and evenings, often in these sets, focused on a specific theme or topic.
Okay.
But she's set it up so you can basically jump in anywhere. You don't have to start at the beginning, apparently. You can go back, though, read everything from the start if you want, because it's designed to flow, like a continuous story.
Oh, shit.
And the tagline really sums that up. A story unfolding across timelines. It gives that sense of ongoing development, something always in motion.
A story unfolding across timelines. I like that. Okay, so the Liat Show is on Substack. For people who maybe aren't totally familiar, what exactly is Substack? Why is it, such a go-to for creators like Leet now?
Right. So Substack, at its core, it's basically an online space. It lets writers, podcasters, other creators share their work directly with their audience. What's really interesting about it is how it sort of cuts out the traditional middleman, the publishing houses, the big media companies.
Bypasses them.
Exactly. It helps build this really direct relationship between the creator and the people consuming the work. And the whole model is built on reader support, so you often have free content, but also the option for paid subscriptions.
So if you really like someone's stuff, you can actually chip in directly to help them keep going.
That's precisely it. Yeah, Leet's own About page really leans into this. It encourages you to subscribe if you're curious, if you want to see where her story leads. It frames it as, your support helps unlock her potential to do these unique projects she has in mind.
That makes sense. Now, one of the things that really jumped out looking through the materials was the dynamic in those conversations between Leet and her father, Nissim. What is it about those chats that makes them stand out?
Oh, they really are. They're a central piece, I think, and really compelling, especially in that series you mentioned about Israel's early housing issues.
Yeah.
What makes them unique, I think, is this really interesting mix. You get these deeply personal family memories and viewpoints, but they're woven right into these bigger historical and social topics.
So it's not just dry facts.
Not at all. It's history and context, but it's seen through the lens of their actual lives, their experiences, their individual takes on things. It gives it that human connection,
Yeah, definitely. Makes it more relatable.
Totally. And you really see their generational differences just pop up naturally in the conversation. Like when they're talking about building for the future after conflicts, Leet expresses this Strong desire to learn from the past, but also acknowledges, hey, I didn't personally live through those really hard times, which obviously shapes her perspective.
Right. And Nissim brings the other side.
Exactly. He brings that crucial viewpoint of someone who was there. He offers insights into, the long-term effects of certain decisions or how deep-seated some of these conflicts really are.
Mhm.
And what's also cool is that Lee specifically invites the audience into these chats. It feels less like eavesdropping and more like you're part of this shared exploration.
That's a great way to put it. And it leads perfectly into thinking about those generational differences more broadly.
Mhm.
What can we kind of learn about, father-daughter perspectives by listening to them talk?
Well, their back and forth really does shine a light on those potential gaps, right? Gaps in understanding and perspective that just naturally come from growing up in different times, having different life
For
tracks.
sure.
A really good example is in a discussion about the future of education. Lee suggests maybe bringing social media into the system somehow.
Okay.
And Neeson's instant reaction is classic. He kind of throws his hands up about technology, saying something like, hey, I'm 70, right? Can I even keep up with all this stuff?
Huh. That's so real. I think everyone can picture that exact conversation happening in their own family.
Exactly. And you also see it in how, Lee might be really enthusiastic about some perhaps more unconventional future ideas.
Uh-huh.
And Neeson often reacts in a more grounded way, maybe a bit skeptical sometimes, based on what he's seen and experienced. There are different backgrounds, like Leet being more tech savvy and Neeson coming from a pre-digital world. It just creates this really interesting tension and dialogue.
Yeah, you get to see the same issue through two totally different valid lenses, which is, well, pretty valuable. Now, you mentioned the Lead Show is reader-supported, and there's this call for founding and annual members. Why might someone choose to back Lead like that? What's the pitch?
Right. The materials really hammer home that it's through this direct support from readers that Leet can actually keep dedicating her time and energy to creating the show. They frame it as helping her write the next great chapter.
So it makes a real difference.
That's the core message, yeah. The
Ah,
idea is that your contribution, whether you jump in as a founding member or subscribe annually, it makes a tangible difference. It helps her take the show, to the next level and bring her vision to life. It's a direct investment in the content you like.
makes sense.
And the pitch itself lays out a few compelling reasons. It points to her unique talent, her engaging storytelling style, suggests the show has potential to be something really big.
Uh-huh.
There's even this pretty bold idea floated that it could be like The Late Show, but during the daytime, or maybe even like the essential education of the future.
Wow, okay. Those are definitely big ambitions.
They are. It also touches on, the real world challenges. Launching independent projects like this, especially written ones, without huge marketing budgets, it's tough.
For sure.
So audience support becomes absolutely crucial. It lets her focus on the actual creative work. There's also this mention of like the ethics of supporting unique talent directly and the sort of groundbreaking aspect of involving the audience in the narrative itself.
Right, that co-creation idea again.
Yeah. And let's not forget, they describe the whole thing weaving together all these diverse topics as delicious, which, suggests it's meant to be a really engaging, satisfying read or listen.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Huh, that's memorable. So, okay, someone's intrigued, but maybe not ready to commit fully yet. Is there a way to dip a toe in?
Yeah, absolutely. The material suggests starting with a free subscription that lets you access whatever content is currently free, get a proper feel for the show.
Right.
And then, you can always decide later if you want to upgrade to paid if you find it valuable. No pressure up front.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Now, there was also this mention of a specific target. Could Lead hit 1,000 subscribers and be free before Pesach? What was that all about?
That came from a specific call to action. Reaching 1,000 subscribers was linked to a potential nomination for a YouTube Rising Star Award.
Well, okay.
So it was framed as this really concrete way supporters could help her gain wider recognition, boost her platform, and kind of further her mission. It connects the act of subscribing directly to helping her hit these tangible milestones.
Gotcha. So subscribing isn't just about getting the content. It's also framed as actively helping her succeed and reach more people.
Yeah.
Okay, so for folks listening who are interested now in subscribing or supporting, what are the practical ways? Where do they go?
Okay, so the main way is directly on Substack. You can subscribe there for $8 a month. That gives you full access to everything.
Right.
But for people who prefer maybe a different model or a lower entry point, there's also Patreon. You can become a patron there for as little as $1 a month. So different options.
Okay, $8 on Substack from $1 on Patreon.
Yeah.
Good. And beyond those direct subscriptions, where else can people find The Wyatt Show online if they just want to listen or follow?
Yeah, it's pretty widely available, obviously on Substack itself, but also on the big podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also on YouTube. And, just following the show on those platforms, even if you're not a paid subscriber, that also helps. It boosts visibility, helps it reach more people organically. So that's another way to show support, too.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Easy to do. Now, this next number really caught my eye. The Lead It Show has apparently reached listeners in 87 countries and 34 U.S. states. I mean, wow, that suggests some pretty serious global interest.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thank you note they shared specifically lists this incredibly diverse range of countries all over the globe: US, UK, Israel, Canada, Australia, loads across Europe, Asia, Africa, South America.
Incredible.
And the list of U.S. states is pretty extensive, too. You've got the big ones like California, New York, but also places like Tennessee, even Alaska and Hawaii. It really highlights just how broad the appeal is. Lead's work is clearly resonating with a very diverse audience, geographically and probably culturally, too.
Yeah, it shows the topics and maybe the way she talks about them are really hitting home for people all over the place.
Mm.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. One theme that kept coming up, especially in those chats between Leet and Nissim, was the critical importance of public understanding of urban planning.
Yeah.
Why is that such a big deal in their conversations?
Right. This comes up a lot, particularly when they dive into Israel's early housing challenges. You see it in articles like Building the Future and Plans on Paper. Their talks really highlight the massive impact that large-scale immigration had on how cities and towns developed in Israel's early days, and they offer a pretty critical look at some of the big plans, like the Sharon Plan.
How so? Critical in what way?
Well, the argument is that the urgent need to house so many people so quickly sometimes led to compromises. Compromises on, say, the quality of the buildings, or maybe not enough thought given to the different cultural backgrounds of the immigrants,
Okay.
or even the development of enough infrastructure like roads, schools, jobs in the right places.
So speed over maybe long-term quality or social cohesion.
Kind of, yeah. Some of the criticisms mentioned include things like a lack of variety in how buildings looked, not enough sensitivity to different cultures, maybe putting new towns in remote areas without enough jobs, or a solid long-term plan.
Right.
Meeson points out that often the plans did include essential services on paper, but actually building them, implementing them, sometimes got delayed or just didn't fully happen. And that, he argues, contributed to social and economic gaps that lasted a long time.
And this is where the public understanding part comes in, why that's so crucial.
Exactly. Their core argument is that regular people, the general public, need a better grasp of what good urban planning actually involves and how it directly affects their everyday lives, the health of their community.
Oh, makes sense.
Nissim makes this really interesting point about the brown areas on planning maps. He says most people have no idea what those mean.
Okay, what do they mean?
In Israel, they represent public buildings, schools, community centers, clinics, things like that. Essential stuff. So his point is, if these things are missing or inadequate in your neighborhood, but you don't even know you should expect them, or what they look like on a plan, well, how can you effectively ask for them? Or hold your local authorities accountable? You lack that basic knowledge.
Ah, I see. So it's about empowering people with information so they can actually participate in shaping their own environment.
Totally. It's about informed citizenship. Leet even floats the idea that urban planning should be like a required subject in school.
Really?
Yeah, covering not just the technical side, but the laws, the rules, the sociology, history, culture, health impacts, education impacts, all the stuff that's connected to how we build our towns and cities.
Wow, that's a big idea.
It is.
Wow.
And Nissim also adds the point about needing to teach innovation in construction, to the actual workers to improve both speed and quality down the line. But the overall message is clear. A more knowledgeable public is better equipped to push for good planning and demand accountability, especially when facing things like housing crises.
That's a really powerful takeaway. It reframes urban planning from something abstract to something deeply personal and vital for communities.
Ah,
Okay, and before we wrap this up, just a quick but important point, how to say Liet and Nissim's names correctly. We've been trying it, but just for clarity.
yeah, good point. So Liet is pronounced leet, emphasis on the long E, and stretch the ut a bit.
Uh-huh.
Leet.
Liet.
Liet.
Lo-
Got it. And Nissim is Nissim. Long knee, short sim, like SIM card. Nissim.
Nissim. Okay,
Hey.
the and Sim, perfect.
Okay.
Well, this has been genuinely fascinating, a real deep dive into the Liet Show. We've touched on, it's a unique mix of topics. There's really engaging conversations, especially the father-daughter dynamic, the Substack platform, and some incredibly relevant themes, particularly that whole piece on why understanding urban planning matters so much.
Absolutely. And thinking about that connection, between planning and our daily lives, it definitely leaves you with a question, doesn't it? For you, listening, what role do you think and from citizens really can play or should play in actually shaping the future of where they live? Something to chew on.
Definitely something to think about. And look, if this conversation has piqued your interest at all, we really do recommend checking out the Liet Show for yourself. Give it a listen. Give it a read.
Yeah, definitely.
Remember, you can subscribe on Substack, that's $8 a month, or support her on Patreon, starting from just $1 a month.
Right.
And you can also find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Just search for The Liet Show or Liet Portal Podcast pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts or on Google.
Easy to find.
Yeah. And remember what we said about Substack. The content's often in sets, thematic sets, but you can jump in anywhere or go right back to the beginning. It's that story unfolding across timelines, and yeah, you're invited to be part of it.